Megalopolis is the latest film from acclaimed director Francis Ford Coppola. It stars Adam Driver, Nathalie Emmanuel, Giancarlo Esposito, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, Dustin Hoffman, among many others, and is about a very rich and powerful man who aims to try and make a utopia in a big city, and there are people against him. And he also has the power to manipulate space and time. And this is a really, really strange movie. To get into it, I remember hearing about this in the festival circuit months and months ago, and it was immediately polarizing. The Letterboxd rating spread shows that. I mean, this thing's all over the place and it's just going down and down. Francis Ford Coppola has been trying to make this movie since the 80s, and he just didn't have the finances or the budget or the resources to really bring his vision to life. And now he finally has it. This is completely self-financed. So I went into this movie with virtually no expectations. I knew people were either thinking it as a self-reflective masterpiece of Coppola's, and I also knew that people were calling it a pretentious hodgepodge of a mess. I went in just hoping for a decent, interesting movie, and it definitely does have some of that. However, as a whole, I think this is pretty messy. The execution here is just all over the place, and it's so inconsistent in all of the facets of its filmmaking. Narratively, this is something that I think feels like it has a lot of big, important ideas, and it just really, it really doesn't. It thinks it's going for this complex and contemplative angle on society and how, people in power can influence these decisions and how politics get in the way and blah, 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 etc., etc. In terms of plot and character, this movie has a lot going on and a lot of characters that we do follow, yet you never feel like you're really connecting with any of them. There's a romantic subplot between Adam Driver and Nathalie Emmanuel's character, which really feels like nothing. You don't really ever feel the romance. And by the end of the movie, and I won't give anything away, but it feels very undeserved. It left me confused, it left me underwhelmed, it left me disappointed. And the ending, I've been thinking about it for some time and I still don't quite know what to make of it. Every plot element, character, aspect in this movie, they all feel underdeveloped and rushed. Adam Driver definitely gets the most out of the script, yet even he, like I said, in the ending, it just doesn't come together in a way that feels fully satisfying to me. Aubrey Plaza's character definitely takes a turn, and where she goes also feels very rushed. The same goes for where Shia LaBeouf's character ends up, and I don't think it's obviously not the fault of the actors. It's just what, they're trying to do their best with what they're given, and what they're given unfortunately just doesn't work as a whole. In terms of performances, the movie is also inconsistent. I think Adam Driver and Shia LaBeouf are the strongest performances of the movie. I think they understood the assignment in terms of tone and in terms of what Coppola's vision was asking for. I also enjoyed Jon Voight in his brief moments. I think Aubrey Plaza also does a pretty good job with what she's given, although she's kind of fluctuates in terms of consistency with the tone of her performance. Nathalie Emmanuel, unfortunately, I think was the weakest performance of the main cast. She didn't quite get on a groove to where all of it worked. I think she had her moments, but I don't know. Her performance fell flat for me. It wasn't entirely convincing, and her accent was not great. I think tonally this film is all over the place. It goes for dramatic and contemplative and complex and introspective in many ways, but then also it has spurts of weird, absurd strangeness. I think it works best, honestly, when it's having a little bit of goofy, absurdist fun. The sequence where Adam Driver's character is tripping out on drugs, for example, and he's kind of dancing around and getting crazy. That's funny, and I think this goes back to what I think like David Lynch or like a modern director like Yorgos Lanthimos do best. They're able to inject a sense of self-awareness to their work, where it's like, yeah, this is weird, but it also plays into the fact that it's weird, and that's what makes it so effective. Here, I think, like I was saying, certain moments of that work, but then other moments come off as laughable and awkward and just completely miss, I think, what Coppola was intending. One of the funniest moments, and I won't spoil anything again, but it involves Jon Voight and a bow and arrow. And that's all I'll say, but that part had myself and my friends laughing, and we seemed to be the only ones laughing in the theater. So I'm not sure if the other moviegoers were just confused, or if they were really trying to, see this as, an intense piece of serious art. But yeah, this movie has a lot of just weird moments that don't entirely land. And when you have an inconsistent tone, it really takes away from the viewing experience. When it comes to dialogue, the dialogue is also inconsistent. There's a lot of quotes, a lot of monologues and speeches with, big words and important things to say. And to be honest, they all felt just rather lifeless and weightless in the end. The other issue is that I won't say lots, there were just a handful of moments that felt kind of on the nose in terms of their ideas or what they're referencing. And a lot of things you could tell were paralleling modern day, the real world issues and problems. And which is fine. I mean, obviously, like films do that all the time. But in this reality that was being presented, they felt kind of out of place. And again, that just goes to the execution and presentation of the story and how it's being told. Because I think there are some really cool ideas here. Coppola establishes, certain powers that the main character has early on in the film, and you're wondering how this plays into maybe his ego or how he sees life or what he can do with these things later on as he gains power. But we don't ever really see that, and you're left with more questions than answers. Now, everything's obviously not supposed to be taken literally in this film. I think there's a lot of symbolic imagery, a lot of representation in certain images and certain ideas visualized. I really liked shots of silhouettes upon the big buildings and skylines of the city. I thought that was really cool. Crumbling animated statues. Pretty interesting. But there does come a line where you wonder, is it leaning into pretentious territory? Does it all truly have a purpose? And I don't know. And so as a whole, the film does start to wear on you. I think it does have a pacing issue. Not to say it's ever boring, but it definitely does become inconsistent in its momentum and keeping you like fully compelled into what's going on. I think the film is a little long in terms of like drawn out scenes, drawn out sequences. There are some like little bits and scenes that could feel superfluous to certain people. Yeah, I kind of liked that they were kind of like random. Like there's a scene where Jason Schwartzman's character like just starts playing the drums, and then we abruptly cut to the next scene and you're like, what? But it's also like, that's kind of what I mean in like there's a sense of self-awareness in the meshing of genres, where I feel like certain decisions are intentional and there is a purpose for them, and I just think the execution are questionable at best. In terms of other issues, ADR is a major problem in this movie. As grandiose and epic as it does look and feel at times, the ADR was so distracting. I mean, and there's a lot of it. And it's not acted particularly well either, which is even more distracting. There are some shots and editing choices that didn't really work for me, but they're, you know, just minor continuity mistakes, or like, okay, why did he have to reverse that image in a split screen, you know, stuff like that. But the cinematography is really good, and I really did dig the look and aesthetic of this film. Visually, the VFX are actually pretty solid. I think there is a bit of over-reliance in CGI at times, to where it does become a little distracting and not entirely convincing. But overall, I thought the VFX were pretty darn good. And just visually, the film really does a good job at establishing this world. The lighting especially, I thought, was phenomenal, especially in nighttime sequences. I love the use of shadow and just color in general. Really like what Coppola and his DP did with iris shots. I thought that was a very cool, inspired decision to emphasize certain moments in certain scenes. And I think from a design, from a production and art design standpoint, the film does a good job at making this world feel unique. And if that's one thing, one positive I can say about this movie, is that it truly is a unique experience. This is unlike anything I've ever seen in a movie, and for that, I mean, I must give it props. I wouldn't be surprised if there really was a longer version of this, and I wouldn't be surprised if Coppola comes out and does a director's cut at some point. Now, who knows, because I mean, I can't see this movie being super successful financially, but I don't know if we'll ever get a, you know, director's cut. I would be interested. Now, I don't think I'll be rewatching this movie anytime soon, but if there is an alternate version that comes out, I would be interested to see the differences, because I feel like there is a lot missing here. Especially in that second half, like the finale just ends in such a strangely hollow way. You're just like, that's it. And so, to wrap up my thoughts, I don't think that Megalopolis is a bad movie. It's definitely not awful. It's definitely not the worst thing I've ever seen. There are things to enjoy here. Like I said, visually, it looks great. Not every aspect is maybe as refined as it could be, but there is a vision here. And you can tell there's a lot of passion here too, which is certainly admirable. I feel like this is a movie that Coppola made for himself, and he's not gonna care what audiences think. I think this movie does have some interesting concepts, some interesting ideas. I like the premise. I just wish that certain elements were developed more, certain characters had more to them. For example, Dustin Hoffman's character is like barely in this. He seems kind of an integral character, and then he's just not in the movie anymore at a certain point. And I wanted to see more of that. I wanted to see more of Jon Voight's character and the relationship with his son and his daughters, who are really put to the wayside. I can't even remember their names. Overall, I think Megalopolis is a very ambitious and unique movie. It does a lot of things that aren't gonna work for people. They didn't work for me. I think the movie is very messy, very inconsistent, but like I said, there is a lot of passion and craft put into here, to where it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Is it a good movie? No, I don't think this is necessarily a good movie. I wouldn't say I even liked it. I didn't really care for this movie as a whole, but there are certain aspects which I can appreciate and certain aspects which I do admire. Will I watch it again anytime soon? Probably not. I can see maybe revisiting this a while from now down the road. So those are my thoughts on Megalopolis. Did you see it? If you did, let me know what you thought. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And if you like this video, give it a like, hit the subscribe button. That'd be awesome. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next movie review.